Andre Segovia Show.
California has its share of problems, and God knows it needs fixing. So whether Gavin Newsom gets to be recalled or doesn't, we still have a gubernatorial election here in California for 2022. In other words, it's just basically a stay of execution for this point, because they're still next year to remove Gavin Newsom with someone considerably more competent. And it's along those lines that I have a guest today that believes he has the solutions to California's problems. My guest today is gubernatorial candidate for California governor, Diego Martinez. I got to asking my guest what solutions he has for small businesses on the challenges they face today in California, and what he would do should he be elected to preserve and protect our property rights here in the state. Because, as you know, for those of you that watch my show, it's constantly under attack, and it's literally hanging by a thread. Well, I should make mention for those of you watching on YouTube, you're not getting the full interview. We get to talking about a topic that is not considered YouTube friendly. So unfortunately, for those of you that want to watch the rest of the interview, you have to go to my website at www.dangeroustogo.com. Check out the show notes. You'll be able to see the entire interview there. For those of you listening on the podcast, don't you worry. You get the full episode. Yeah, it works differently outside of YouTube, unfortunately. But anyway, without further ado, here is my interview with California gubernatorial candidate Diego Martinez. Mr. Martinez, welcome to the Andre Segovia Show. A little bit about myself and my background. I am a small business owner here in Southern California, primarily serving Orange County and Los Angeles. And as a concerned citizen of this fine state of ours that we see mismanaged, we need solutions to basically save our state. I looked into your interviews. I checked out your stuff, and by the way, I love the fact that you're doing it in español también, because our people are vastly underserved and they need to know the truth. So I'm grateful for that. But for those of us that don't exactly know you, candidates, that's probably how it's par for the course. We don't know any of them until they make themselves seen. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I guess your elevator pitch for those, and why would someone want to vote for you for governor?
Well, my name is Diego Martinez. I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 6 years old. I became a U.S. citizen in 2008. I've been a Republican ever since I was able to vote. I'm a small business owner, and I've had a business background. I've ran multi-million-dollar car dealerships at one time, and we took dealerships that were failing and made them profitable. We did that for about 3 years. Why should anybody vote for me? That's a good question. The real question is, why would a businessman who has a decent living, living the American dream, want to actually even be governor of California? Well, the first step is this. I'm an average person just like everybody else. It is sad to see where our state has ended. And it's even worse to see that our elected officials have failed us. But when I say that, I mean both parties. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. When the system has failed everybody, it's time that normal people, everyday people, stand up and fight for what we believe in. I believe in the state of California. I believe in the California people. I don't believe that there's a one party ruling. I believe that we all need the equal representation. I believe that we need to stop getting lied to. And for most, and I'm running on this, I believe real California problems need real California solutions. And I'm the person who's going to fix those problems. As a business person, that's my job, to create profit and to create solutions for the problems that are ahead of us. And California is a business, and it's time we open for business.
Yeah, I happen to agree with just about everything you just said. But seeing that you're also a member of the Republican Party, it seems like we don't have any time for a primary. And did you make the short list for the recall election, or just for the 2020 gubernatorial campaign?
Well, when I first started, I was running for 2022, and I started in March of 2020 because I knew not a lot of people knew me. First of all, new to politics, never had politics backing. Second of all, Diego Martinez. You have a Hispanic name in a Republican setting. Yeah, that's a double whammy. Third of all, you have to have enough money to be able to run. As a business owner, I've been able to self-fund my campaign this far. Now is to where I really need help from people who are listening to my show and say, hey, you know what? I'm ready to donate. So when you start running for office, you got to look at different aspects. So I looked at the 2022 election. I worked hours, weeks, days on the recall. So when the recall special election came, we're on the list. We are on the list to run for the recall. We're going to run on the recall. And the best thing about the recall, it could be the most honest and fair election that there has been in the state of California in a long time. But it's not even that. Look at the recall right now. We can make history in the state of California in different folds. One, electing the first Hispanic governor in the state of California. Two, recalling the second governor of the state of California. Three, replace the attorney general and the secretary of state within 3 minutes of me becoming in office. So you're going to hold 3 out of the top 4 positions in the state of California with one election. Gavin Newsom has given us an opportunity to do this when he appointed the secretary of state and he appointed the attorney general. Maybe they didn't believe that the recall was going to happen. But if California voters right now really want to fix voter integrity, this is the time, and you have got to pick the right governor. Because I will do exactly what I just said. I will replace the Secretary of State who will take care of our voter integrity. And I will replace the Attorney General, which will put in law that now we will need voter ID to vote in the state of California for your 2022 election. There is no one other candidate that will promise you that. Why? Because they're politicians, and I am not scared if I only run the remainder of the 2021 cycle and don't get reelected in 2022. Because by the time 2022 comes around, I will already have policies and things in order that would have shifted California in more ways than the last 8 governors have in this whole state. I am not a career politician. I am a businessman, and I will put California back on the map to do business. I will earn the right to get reelected in 2022.
Well, you touched on the topic of election integrity, and that's one of those things that I did have on the list here to ask you a question. So we have enough time. We'll touch on that one. So with you separate yourself from the other candidates, and yes, un Hispano running, and I believe you said you're from Uruguay, right?
Uruguay.
Yeah, Uruguay. Okay. Yeah, I'm Salvadoreño. My parents were born and raised there. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. So basically my story is LA, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Everything's there. In fact, I'm working on a series for this month of June where I'm addressing Fix California. So my program, I've dealt a lot with having to, it was unintentional, doing reaction series with respects to Cal Exit, the California Exodus, whatever terminology they want to use. The point is migration issue. More people been leaving the state than have been coming in. And as I predicted for the census years, like we're gonna lose the seat for the first time in decades, and that's exactly what happened. Particularly because 10 years ago we didn't even gain a seat, which is the first time California did not, and that's changing the political landscape all across. And the reason people are leaving just really comes down to economics and economic policy. So you're a small business owner. I'm a small business owner. So we're basically on the same wavelength here. I'm sure we can speak the same language in terms of what can be done for small businesses, because especially with 2020 being a year unlike any other in our lifetimes, it's small businesses were the hardest hits. And when I think it was just recently, we found out that at least 1/3 of all restaurants in California will not be reopening again because they were shut down due to COVID. With very little support being given to small businesses, what, if any, do you propose in terms of support for small businesses here in California should you be elected as governor?
Well, that's a good question there, because that goes into basically California to me is all tied together. If you own a business, it's not how you open the doors, when you open the door, how many tables you have, how many tables you flip, do you have the right cook, do you have the right dishwasher, right? If you own a restaurant. So our small businesses took the hardest hit. But when I say I'm going to deregulate California, we have a special group of people that are going to go back and bring corporations back into California. We need the infrastructure. We need bigger corporations to maintain the small businesses also, not to get them out of business. So what we're going to do is this. There used to be trade schools in the state of California that are no longer here. We have really very little trade schools, so we're going to work with junior colleges and other organizations to bring trade schools back into California. We're also going to open up an apprenticeship program with these big corporations that we bring back for our college students to be able to have a job. Now, we talk about small businesses, just like yourself, just like me, just like a construction company. We're going to go and do on-the-job training. Okay? What does that mean? We're going to give you people who have never been trained. You're going to train them, but you're going to get a tax break for everybody who you hire that you're training to do a job. I want to get people back to work, but I want to give the employers an incentive to hire people without the trade that they normally would look for so they can get a tax break, because that's very important, because small businesses were getting taxed to death because we are the foundation of California, right? So if I give you a tax break for every employee that you hire that you're training, you get the best training. You pay them a lesser wage than you pay your people who've been with you who are trained already. Not only that, the state will give you a tax break for hiring these people, which will generate your business and help it grow. Bringing these big corporations into California, reducing their taxes by them hiring apprenticeship people or on-the-job training people will get more people to work. Just think about this. If you own a restaurant and you're in an area that's mostly industrial and right now is shut down because there's not a lot of industry there, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine me bringing 10 new industries to that location. Where's your restaurant going to go? It's going to get busier because you're going to have a flow of more people working in that area to help you. So you're going to need people. So I'm going to give you a tax break to be able to hire the people that you need and to be able to expand your business. If a small business wants to expand within 2 years, we're going to give them a tax break for being able to open up a second location or a third location. We want people in California to go back to work. So the only way you know how to do this is deregulating California and bringing corporations back, giving them a tax break to hire people, on-the-job training, from trade schools, apprenticeship programs, but we're going to do the same thing for small businesses. Everybody gets the same tax breaks in California. Doesn't matter the size of your business, as long as you join the programs that we have. Because the idea is to get people on the job force and get you the support that you need and make small businesses more attainable. And what it is, when you own a small business, you know that our taxes are through the roof on everything that we do. We also have to lower the employment tax. We got to bring it down from 13 because that is way too high for small business to try to employ anybody. So if we bring down their employment tax down to a reasonable amount, which should be about 5%, is what other states are doing right now. I want to make California competitive with Texas, Arizona, Nevada. I want nobody to want to leave California because of the standards of living. I want people to come to California for the opportunities for employment and for a better future and a way better, more beautiful state than any other.
Yeah. And as someone, like I said, we're on the same wavelength. I'm a small business owner. I know exactly what you're referring to. And as a matter of fact, I just process payroll. So I know exactly what you're referring to. But most people that are not into business, that are more on the paycheck receiving side, will not understand what you just said as something that's fiscally responsible and possible. Instead of be like, why not force these companies to raise the pay to their employees by making the minimum wage possible, and to address the state debt or whatever and funding all these projects? Why not increase taxes on all these companies? So to those that do not believe that tax cuts are the economic engine to grow wealth and business, how do you respond to them?
Well, it's very simple. I want to cut everybody's tax in California. Okay. If you're old like I am, if you're in your 30s, your 40s, you remember making $3, $4 an hour, a minimum wage. But we were taxed less. So $6, $7, when we made $10 an hour, we have more money in our pocket because we were taxed less. The idea is to tax everybody in the state of California less than what we're getting taxed right now to make it competitive. So you don't have to. Okay, let me break this down in a simple manner. If I gave you $10 an hour and I paid you $15 an hour, at today's rate, your $15 an hour, a bulk of it more goes to the government than to you in your pocket. If I paid you $10 an hour, but lower your taxes, more go into your pocket than to the government. The idea is to cut taxes across the board so everybody can feel the tax break. Not the rich, not just corporations, not just businesses, but the everyday California worker. So what does that do? That goes into our immigration reform program because it all goes hand in hand. Right now, you have 2/3 of California paying all the taxes, right? So let's call it 25%. You have 75% living off all the programs. So you got to tax more people so you can pay for all these programs. You follow?
Yeah.
So with an immigration reform program of giving everybody who's here right now working a 3 to 4 year work permit where they have to pay taxes just like every other Californian, and you take the free programs away. No more free medical, no more free money, no more free housing, right? But you're giving them an opportunity to be able to pay taxes just like the rest of the California people, right? Now you have 100% of the people that are working paying taxes. You have more revenue coming in, just you can cut down taxes, but you still have the same amount coming in. So, and you're not spending so much because you don't have all these free programs going out. So in your economics, it actually grows your economics, not takes it down.
And I think based on what your response was there, you might have upset a lot of more stringent conservatives along the lines with immigration reform. Now, since trying to stick to the whole economics thing, I'm not going to delve into the immigration part, but one of the things that makes things difficult to approach on just about anything, particularly policy-wise, is that everything's so commingled. Everything with respect to everything's politicized. Same thing with any topics that money, trying to talk about business and fiscal policy, it's gonna affect someone's, I guess, social political views because it's all intertwined because of all that's going on. So, having said that, I'm not going to dive into the whole immigration reform aspect of things and what that all means. But to the effect of what you said, it's also addressing an issue that needs to be addressed. That it's kind of like once the ingredients have been mixed, how do you undo those ingredients? At that point, no, you just work with what you got and try to finish making whatever you're going to make with those ingredients. But that's all to what I'll say with respects to immigration. Now, back to the economics of things. Along the route, I like what you're presenting. And for anybody that questions the whole minimum wage thing, we actually have a previous example with what happened with the Kroger stores and the Ralph stores here in LA County when LA forced them to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour because there you go. See, finally a win for the little guy. How many people were laid off? I think at least somewhere between 15 and 20 stores were closed. So we have more people that are unemployed. So that's anybody suggesting that that's the best way to go by raising the cost. Don't understand that as those of us that have to employ, well, if I'm going to be paying someone twice as much, that means I have to make that up. If I'm going to keep the prices on my menu or my goods and services the same, I got to let someone go. And some people don't see that side of things because, of course, unless you walk on someone else's shoes for a mile, you're not going to understand what that is. That's one of the reasons. So I agree with the whole necessity of policy-wise and regulations that can help alleviate a lot and spur the engine of economic growth going here in California. Again, particularly because we're the most despite the fact that we lost a lot of people, we're still the most populous state in the union, and there's people that do want to work despite how much the state wants to turn us to a welfare state. But along those lines, with respects to small business and how 2020 again been a year unlike any other. I don't see any reparations or anything being offered to any small business that have been looted or vandalized, or just the people that are too concerned to open back up because of it. And this is going to tie in later, so we'll bring it up then. A vagrancy that happens, which is unfortunately sometimes happens with our homelessness crisis, which the homelessness thing, if we can touch on it towards the end, we will. But with respects to small businesses, any other helping hand that you can give to these businesses that have suffered because of the looting and rioting, because apparently we have DAs like in LA that are letting them do this, but if a small business dare disobey a state mandate, they're shuttered like that, or health inspectors show up and they try to close them down. But if someone comes in following COVID guidelines or not, but if they went in there and just tore up the whole place, they were just expressing their anger because of racial injustice. I guess it almost goes hand in hand. A lot of these small businesses want to see teeth given to some kind of security, whether it's protecting our police force that can patrol our streets and can make the necessary I guess I don't want to say arrest because I don't know that's exactly the right thing, but to patrol our streets properly to the effect of that they can provide the security and confidence for these small businesses to reopen again, because those that haven't reopened that are scared to reopen, it's like, what's the point? Some of them don't have the life, all their life seeds tied into these small businesses that have been looted and rioted.
So first, let me start off with this. Gaston needs to be recalled. Okay, that's the first step. I got to say this, and if he's not, he better figure out a new application before I get into office. I believe in law and order. I believe that we fund our police department to the fullest and we get them to hire the right people. And what I mean by that, we give them enough funding where they can actually hire people who have social services and mental health degrees, and they can become police officers and be able to pay them the right wages. Second of all, when we talk about law and order, we need to talk about Black Lives Matter, destroying people's properties and looting and destroying businesses that have no concept, that have no involvement in what they're talking about, never were prejudiced, never did anything wrong to anybody. So I like what I like what Black Lives Matter says. No justice, no peace. I will go after everybody who's on camera who looted any one of those businesses, and they will be prosecuted. And that's why it's so important that I changed the Attorney General in the state of California, because what Gaston is doing, we will prosecute him for not doing his job and prosecuting people that he's supposed to prosecute. Second of all, we're going to look at every business that's been looted, and we're going to find a funding to be able to help them restore what they lost and get them back on their feet and get them back going. Because California, we need our small businesses back in place, and our small business owners need to know that the state stands with them, and so does law and order. And it has not been fair. There has been zero justice to everybody who has looted and disrespected our country and our small businesses, and they need to pay for what they have done. Now, if you get a political figure trying to bail somebody out, they will be prosecuted for the same thing. For for its assisting on the crime that they're doing. We will prosecute anybody who breaks the law. And I don't care if you're a patriot. I don't care if you're a governor. I don't care if you're a hoodlum. We are going to prosecute everybody who breaks the law. That means we have to go back and get away from Prop 47, 109. We have got to get rid of these where if you do a small crime, you get cited and released. No, if you do the crime, you're going to do the time. Bottom line, law and order needs to come back to the state of California. We need to fund our police departments better. Now, if any county, any city wants to defund the police, we're going to defund their government funding, and we're going to replace it to policing their streets. We are actually going to take it right back to what they're taking it away from. And we're going to have police on the ground, boots on the ground, walking the streets and earning the respect of the people in those neighborhoods. And we want people to feel safe. Our safety is number one, and there's no price to our safety. And I'm tired of hearing people saying defund the police. You know what? One bad apple doesn't ruin the bunch. But because if that's the case, Maxine Waters should be behind bars for what she did in that trial that was going on of that police officer. She instated hate. She caused a mistrial, and yet none of our representation has said anything to her. And what she did was break the law. She needs to be in jail too. So for our small businesses who have suffered underneath this, I will help you get reopened, and we will have justice for what has happened to you.
Well, I'm trying to be as impartial as possible, but you also touched on things that I wished more people spoke out about. So first, I commend your bravery to speak out, because you're going literally against the grain here. And with respects to law and order, our wonderful governor that is being recalled signed into order that's about 74,000 more inmates are going to be released. Over 60,000 of those are violent felons. I don't know what timeline that was really meant to be placed there, but I'm assuming the state should know where they're being released to. How does that get addressed? Let's say they're released before you become governor.
We monitor them, and as soon as they commit a crime, they go right back. We make them serve the remainder of their time that they had. There will be no plea deals. they will go right back to jail. They'll go right back to prison. We are not going to shut down prisons in the state of California. As a matter of fact, we need to go into every prison and fine tune them and make sure that their budget are running where they're supposed to. Unfortunately, there's a lot of wasteful spend in prison systems right now, that if we actually take it down like a business, take the prisons like a business and fine tune them and run them on a shoestring budget per se, that we can actually get more out of our prison than what we're doing right now. And it'll cost us less to keep these people where they belong. Our governor right now is a moron. He actually went out and released 76,000 inmates and is shutting down 2 prisons. Susanville's already shut down. Where do those prisoners go? Not only that, if I could prove what I think we can prove, he's going to end up in jail for endangering people's lives, because he wanted San Quentin so bad that he moved inmates from other prisons that had COVID and put them in San Quentin so other inmates will get contaminated with the virus, to where they had to clean out most of the inmates out of San Quentin. Because what he didn't realize is that if you got sentenced to death in San Quentin, you have the right to say, I don't want to transfer. And a lot of the inmates did that, so he couldn't get San Quentin. So he found a way around it by bringing sick inmates and putting them in that prison so other people get sick.
But they're on
First of all, the California people signed that we wanted the death penalty on the ballot, that we wanted to keep it. Gavin Newsom went and took that away from us. We have a dictator. What we need in California is a governor who will stand for the people of California and do what the people of California want. My personal feelings don't have anything to do with the job of the California people and what they request of me. And I could go over different policies that would affect, because my personal feelings are completely different, but the law is the law, and you've got to follow the law of the state, and you have got to honor the people who put you in office. And we do not have that right now.
Yeah. And I did not know that about what you just said about moving prisoners around. I mean, they're on death row, but God forbid they get COVID. They have a 99% chance that they'll recover. Okay, so switching to, we could stay on that one quite a while, but I know you're also on time and you also had a long day, so I want to switch over to the next topic that I also want to cover, which is economic. And this is still, I guess, in a way, still with respects to small business, but this time more specifically an industry that was hardest hit, and that's property owners. We had an eviction moratorium installed by the California Judicial Council. They never, ever issued an emergency order. They issued the first emergency order, and that was a stop to all evictions. The Pacific Legal Foundation was one of the first to bring, spearhead a conversation with the Judicial Council to rescind their unconstitutional, by California standards, law. And when they realized that they were going to be sued over this and they had no standing in this whatsoever, they timed it nicely to remove the emergency order when Gavin Newsom installed his own version of an eviction moratorium that's due to expire June 30th. I mean, they keep moving the goalpost on this one. With respects to everything else the property owners had to do, they're the only ones that had no benefits, assistance, or recourse offered to them, but the tenants were, despite the fact that there are a lot of tenants that could pay, never lost their job. They were considered, essential workers. But property owners couldn't collect the rent. They were told they couldn't collect the rent. And they had to keep the lights on in some cases, because in some cases they had to pay for the utilities. Of course, they had to pay for the insurances because they couldn't stop paying the insurances. The insurance companies wouldn't afford them anything. I know too many people within the network of property owners that ended up selling their property to get out of here, because what was the point? They even sold it with the tenants in there because they couldn't evict them. There's a lot of real estate that is held up because it's contingent on the property being vacated, and there are no evictions, depending on where you are permitted. And LA is even worse. It's what, if this guy does not remove the eviction moratorium, would you commit to removing the eviction moratorium should you get elected as governor?
I'm going to actually do something better than that. First of all, that's going to get removed, but before I remove it, I'm going to go work with the banks and make sure that these people do not lose their homes. Because right now, rental properties are going to start losing them. And the reason, there was a conspiracy that Gavin Newsom wanted to do this so the state would buy these properties up and give them to the homeless and give them to less fortunate people. Well, that's not the way this is supposed to work. So before I remove anything, I'm going to go work with the banks and allow these people to have enough time to actually make up. And we're also going to do a special funding for the people that got hit the worst. And that because this is something the state did. This is not something that was man-made. This is something the state did. The state should have stayed out of people's properties because people were getting unemployment. People were getting an opportunity to make the payment. The average person made $4,000 a month on unemployment. They can pay their rent. So unfortunately, the state got in the middle of something that they should have never gotten in the middle of. Now it's the state's problem to fix it and make sure that the homeowner gets protected on what's going on. We will remove the no eviction to where people that haven't paid rent need to get evicted. But we're also going to give the homeowners that are backed up on their mortgage payments an opportunity. We're going to give them government funding to be able to cover that. Instead of giving $125 million to illegals or undocumented people, we're actually going to give it to the homeowners who the state of California affected on this. And we're going to make sure that they save their houses. We'll at least get them up to date to where they can save their houses. Then they can make their own decisions on what happens to their property. But what has happened been a tragedy. It has been unfair and unconstitutional to the people who are the homeowners who are getting left behind because now they're going to get a foreclosure. Now they're going to lose their investment. Some people, that's their retirement that we just took away from them. And that's not right. It's not fair.
Yeah. It's along those lines too, that some municipalities overextend their power. And King Garcetti is one of those that I don't know to what effect the state can get involved and strike down an unconstitutional order. And by all means, what Garcetti has done is unconstitutional, especially with respects to, say, the rents are not allowed to be raised. Technically, they cannot in rent stabilization ordinance. That's one thing. But what he was doing was on saying that it only applies to the RSO, where I guess he's trying to use it as cover for his unconstitutional move to say you cannot raise the rent in these RSO areas, rent stabilization ordinance, in Los Angeles. And if you do, you'll only be able to do so 1 year after I declare the emergency is over. Who's to say? Like, what if there's the next strain of the coronavirus comes around and says, we're going to shut down again?
So the government has very little reach sometimes what we could do with what a individual mayor does. Mm-hmm. But what we can do is something that nobody else wants to do. We will recruit the right person to be the mayor of that town. We're going to help them campaign. We're going to help them get their fundraising, and we're going to get those people out of office. We're going to get the right people in the right offices that need to be there. And I'm not talking about what party or the other. I'm talking about the right person for the job. Mm-hmm. And that's what California people need to start looking at. We keep hiring our party lines, and guess what? We keep failing because both parties have failed us. Perfect example, the mayors of LA has failed the LA people. So now we need to get the right candidate to run for office, and we need to unite and get the right person in there that will do the best for the California people, or in this case, the LA people. We will help LA. We will help every county that we can to make every county better than what it was. And when it comes to state law, we're going to make it official that everything is across the board the same, so that there is no person like that trying to make their own rules, trying to make their own laws. And basically because he just feels like it, because there's really no theory behind it.
Yeah. And it's along those lines that it's more of like a peripheral to this. This one was property owners. Now it's property rights. And as I stated on my program numerous times, our individual freedoms begins with our ability to own our property. So property rights. And those have been under assault. Particularly here in California, we literally have only one law left protecting property owner rights, and that's Costa-Hawkins, and is continuously under attack. And with the governor passing AB 1482 and local municipalities doing more to erode that, I've always said the government takeover of property is that very intent to take away our rights away. And with this whole thing that happened last year, there were more cries for abolishing landlords. What would you as governor do to protect our property rights? I
will make sure that everybody stays where it's at, especially like when you talk about Prop 13. We cannot keep taxing Californians to death. That's exactly what we're doing. And it's almost like the government keeps wanting to tax us on our property so that we can't afford property anymore. Actually, I got an affordable housing program that's going to come in effect once I become governor, so more people can actually afford housing, not less people. We're going to make housing affordable for everybody, and we're going to deem it not based on your credit. We're not going to deem it based on your credit. We're going to deem it based on your ability to be able to pay. You have old warehouses. You have different commercial buildings that we can actually turn into housing. We just got to rezone them for residential. We cannot keep raising the cost of living in the state of California. Nobody will want to live here. That means your property taxes need to stay where they're at right now without keep raising them. Your property taxes were set on a certain level and they need to be there. This is a shame. And watch this. You paid for your house for 30 years, right? You still don't own it because you're still paying taxes on it. And if you don't pay taxes on it, somebody could take it away. I'm actually going to look at a system to see if after your house is paid off, if there is no such thing as property taxes no more on your property.
Interesting.
If we can remove your property tax, because guess what? You already own your house. You already paid your taxes. Okay, when you bought your car yesterday, you paid your taxes that day. You don't pay them every year. You pay your tax, but you don't pay taxes on the same purchase that you made. Think about this. You pay property taxes when you bought your house. You pay property taxes every year. Why are we getting taxed all the time on the same property that we already own?
I never actually heard anyone say that before. That's definitely making you unpopular with the left because they see this as a revenue engine.
Well, here's the reality is you bought the property.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you still paying taxes on it?
That's true.
Now, if you sell it, the new owner has to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
If you give it to a relative, they should pay a transfer fee, maybe half of a tax on it, but they shouldn't get retaxed on a property that you already paid off. So you never really own your house. So did you buy your house and the foundation, or did you buy the land that your house sits on?
That's very, very interesting. And if somewhere along the line, along the campaign, if we're able to reconnect at some point, I would love to pick your brain on that, because I'm doing a series just on that very thing, addressing the housing affordability crisis. And I'm glad you mentioned it that way. But I also found out that the politicians, both on the good and the bad side of this subject, they're saying the same thing we are, but when they say it, they mean something different. With respects to how do we make the properties more affordable versus more housing availability in the terms of the way they see it. And I was just actually watching an interview with one of the councilmen from Beverly Hills that was talking about this. At first, I had my shields up because I don't know, I'm not agreeing with what this guy's saying. But then I basically finished the interview to hear him out, and I found myself agreeing with almost 90% of everything he said. But I just found out that they're using a different jargon. But anyway, that's a bit of a sidetrack there. But like I said, it's an open-ended invitation for you if you'd like to discuss that. I know I would with respects to that, because that's exactly in the field that I'm in. But with touching back on the property rights angle of things, I'm not sure how much you know about this. I actually found out about this recently. It's the foundation I recently mentioned, Pacific Legal Foundation. They were representing pro bono the CEO, Mike Farner. He's the CEO of the Cedar Point Nursery. They provide more than half of the strawberries of California, maybe I don't know how much of the United States, but several years ago, I guess I saw the video of the United Farm Workers coming over, showing up, and I didn't know anything about this because I'm not in agriculture, and I'm not dealing with that kind of union presence. But apparently, rules do allow some kind of easement to allow union workers to show up to private property for about 3 hours out of the day, 120 days out of the week, to basically recruit workers to join their union. He sued to basically bar them from showing up to his private land and interfere with his work. But California being California, the courts didn't side with him. So this is actually getting to the Supreme Court. So that's why I asked along the lines of what you would do with respects to protecting property rights. And you brought that up about even being able to eliminate the property tax after you've purchased your property. But I don't know if you knew about that, because I didn't know that goes on, and I think that's crazy.
So California is such an open, and I'll kind of flip this a little bit. I could be sitting in my house right now like I am right now, right? Mm-hmm. You can walk into my house right now. You can walk in my door, go to my refrigerator, make yourself a sandwich, sit right there. I can't touch you. I can't do anything. I can call the police, say you're trespassing. They'll come, ask you to leave. No big deal. Okay. It's kind of like the same thing that you're talking about. Except you got union representatives coming in trying to take your employees away from you, trying to get them to go join the union so they get more wages, so they get this. To me, a private property is exactly what it is. It's a private property. Nobody should be allowed on there if they're not allowed on your property. So we got to change California law to protect the property owners. Also, in the agricultural business, we have got to help secure the employers that employ people and not let the unions get in the middle of it and mix with it. Because that's what unions do. That's how they recruited a lot of people. They used to threaten people from one job to go join the union until they finally joined the union. Well, we got to stop that bullying around and let people work the way they want to work. If you want to be part of a union, go join a union. If you don't, you shouldn't have to. But you shouldn't be at your job where somebody's paying your wages and being disrupted by somebody trying to get you to quit there and go work for somebody else, because basically that's what you're doing. Now you're working for the union. You're not working for the farmer anymore. So we're going to put a stop to that. And we'll find the unions till we're either going to break the unions or they're going to abide by the rules. And the rules are, if you want to recruit somebody, you do it after work. You do not do it at their job while they're working.
Because it was along those lines that finding out about that, I deal a lot with rent stabilization ordinance in the property management that I do, property that I own and my family owns and that I manage for them. And I also dealt with on the construction side of things because I was born and raised in a construction company and seeing just how crazy it is, particularly LA, because that's the one I dealt with that has the strictest form, where we have a housing department, we have the building department, of course, because that's what they deal with, permits and all that. But when all of them are involved, and including there's a REAP program, rental escrow account program, to basically be attorneys on strike for the tenants so they don't pay rent. Basically, if the citations for which the property owner has to resolve do not get resolved because none of these organizations talk to each other and they make it a living hell for property owners, technically the city can cite the property owner and saying that you failed to take care of your tenants, therefore you lose rights to your property. And that's what a lot of this sounds like, where it's just government take over private property, like I mentioned before. And that was just at a local level. We have statewide rent control now. And that's why Costa-Hawkins is continuously under attack, because they removed that last one that we have. It feels like that's exactly what they intend to do. It's kind of like the unions just being able to walk on over. It's like, it's private property, it's not your business. Like an inspector is able to arrive to a property that's privately owned, but because in a rent stabilization ordinance, they can show up and start finding up the wazoo just to get the property owner to do something that's to the discretion of the inspector of the housing department that may or may not be aligned with code that the building and safety says. That happens all the time. So that's why I wanted to hear you reiterate your promise and position to defend us, and if to do anything with respect to being able to turn around AB 1482, because I know the California Association of Realtors isn't doing anything about it.
Well, I actually have a legislator who's going to go with me to Sacramento who actually deals strictly with real estate. And me and him been talking about what we're going to change, and a lot of the stuff that you just discussed, we're actually going to change. If you want to go to your tenant's house, you have to give them 24-hour notice. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to inspect your house, they should give you the same courtesy as the landlord and the tenant. So you should be able to be there when they do it. We should be able to see what they're talking about, and we should be able to fix it at a timely manner, not go in there and cite you, because I heard that they walk in there and they actually have condemned a house that really didn't need to be condemned. Mm-hmm. That could have been fixed. Mm-hmm. In a weekend, me and my friends could have gone there and fixed it. It would have been up to code, moved on. But they go and condemn the house for different reasons. And then they make it 3-4 times harder for the property owner to actually be able to do anything about it. to actually be able to save their house. So we're going to actually look into all the regulations. I actually have a guy who's been in real estate forever. He actually worked under a previous president and governor of California. And that's what he does. So we're breaking it down. He's actually going to make it more fair for the property owners and everybody else. And that's what we came up with, an affordable housing for everybody. So our affordable housing is able to help new homeowners or anybody who wants to be a homeowner. Basically, the biggest problem that you can't qualify for a house in California is because the prices are too high. Second of all, your credit might not be worthy enough, or you just don't make enough money to qualify for a $500,000-$600,000 house. If you look at LA, the LA area, your average house there, I think it was $500,000 or something like that. I looked at the other day.
At least I know that the recent numbers that came out for our association was showing like 813,000, which I think is absolutely insane.
So who can afford that, right? But you have these old, we're going to make, it's almost like they're going to be townhouses and they're going to be stacked like high rises, right? You're going to have 3 on top of each other, and we can do 120 units. We can sell them for $200,000 each. Okay. But here's how it works. Let's say you move in, you and your wife move in. We let you pay rent. We figure about $1,500 a month for a year. Okay. That pays your homeowners association, which will pay for a handyman, gardener, keep up the whole property. And it'll pay for a home shield warranty for your complex, right? $200 of that's to the size of your real mortgage, only about $1,300. After a year, we're going to go to you and say, okay, you qualify to buy the house. You never missed a payment for a year. Here's the conditions of the house. It's actually $210 because of your closing costs. When you leave, you cannot sell this house for anything more than that. This property can never be sold for that. The developer and the bank will actually have the first right of refusal to buy that property back. $200,000. So if you live in it for 5 years, you get whatever you made out of the $200,000, whatever you paid into it, you can take that with you, but the house cannot sell for more than $200,000. It will never sell for any more than $200,000. The next person comes in, does the same program, does a year, shows that they're worthy enough. We back the bank on the loan. They start going into their mortgage after a year. Basically, your first year is your trial, making sure that you can afford the payment. They're beginner houses, and they're going to help people develop credit so that they can actually go out and get a better house. Now, you have your own rentals available. If somebody wants to go and rent your place, somebody's saying no, but we want to make housing affordable for Californians, and we want to make it so they can actually own a property.
Ambitious, definitely. A lot of questions did pop up with respect to that. That's why I say that would make for just an interesting conversation to just focus on that very thing. Because one thing's for sure, the major thing that stands in the way of all that, regulations, and that's it. If you can revamp some of the building code and deal with some of the zoning to that respect and get some of the bureaucracy out of the way, possibly. Being in construction, if they can't do it for the homelessness, I'm not going to do it for something like that. But there is a private company that is doing something similar to that. I'm not sure you heard of them. They're Divvy Homes. They're doing something similar to that, where it's a rent-to-own type program. There used to be some kind of loans like that for vehicles too, but they're doing it for homes. I didn't see that experiment happening here in California. I couldn't find anything here in California, so they must be doing it out of state. But they started out from here. So, but that I knew for a fact that wasn't an experiment they could do here, and they were somehow, some way trying to cap that the value of the property, if you will, for when they consummate the transaction later on. Now that they rent it, will they buy it? The whole intent is to build the credit along the way. But like I said, it's an interesting conversation that I will, like I said, open invitation to be able to dive deep, to be able to discuss that. We can make the schedule work, basically.
I'd love to sit down and discuss it, because from what, like I said, I have a legislator who actually does all that. He says we can make it happen. Just like you said, though, we got to cut a lot of the regulations. We have got to cut a lot of stuff. The capping on it is made so it's affordable housing. This is also available for senior citizens that are on a fixed income that can actually afford to have a place that can't afford now. So we'll reschedule for another hour, and I bet me and you could take up the whole hour discussing on how just this one project could actually work if we did it right and what the concept of it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what, like I've been saying. I think we spoke about this in the pre-interview, where this month I've been basically just touching on that very thing. Like, it's gone from hashtag Save California to hashtag Fix California, and one of the things, it's literally starts with housing. Get people into homes, addressing the homelessness issue. It's all part of it. Seeing that we're running up on time, I don't know how much more time I have of you, because if you have time for one more topic, then this is where I'll leave it for.
I'm all yours. I actually set my evening aside for you.
Well, I appreciate that. So for those of you watching on YouTube, this is where I'll have to leave it for you. For those of you watching the other platforms, you'll be able to see the rest of the interview. But for those of you on YouTube, the only way you can watch the rest of this interview is by going to www.dangerousjacoby.com. Check out the show notes. You'll see the full video there, because the topics that I want to ask him here is not YouTube friendly. Because, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. In some cases it is. But for those of you that we're saying goodbye to, Mr. Martinez, how can people that are interested in learning more about you or supporting your campaign do so? Where can they go?
Diego Martinez for Governor.com is our website. We are on all social media under Diego Martinez for Governor. I have my Facebook. My strongest Facebook is Diego Martinez for Governor 2020, because Facebook wouldn't let us change it. And it also says unofficial, because even when we became official, they wouldn't let us change the name. So I use that as a punchline now. It's unofficial, but we're really official. So come on over, take a look at what we got to talk about, ask any questions. Thursday mornings, I actually do a live on Instagram and Facebook, and it's called Waking Up California with Diego Martinez. And I invite everybody from any party to come on in, and we just talk about normal politics that are going on, and more than welcome to ask me any kind of question, and come on and join the show at any time. Also, I invite people on all the time. And if you request, you come on. We're not hiding or going from anybody. And
you mean that literally. So for those of you that didn't catch that, when you do your IG lives, you literally bring people on with the live feed, and that's interesting. So you're a man of the people, want to reach out to the people and connect with the people, and I can get behind that. I respect that. So again, for those of you on YouTube, this is where we'll leave it, and the links for Mr. Martinez will be available to show notes to accompany this episode as well. So Mr. Martinez, this is where I can break a little bit more of, I don't want to call it a facade, because it's not a facade. I like to be professional. I'm tough on both sides, or all sides of political spectrums. But to just, my audience knows this, I don't hide it. I'm a Christian conservative in that order. I am a member of the Republican Party, but I'm not proud of my party, where it's gone, and how it's basically failed Trump to back him up when he needed them the most. But at the same time, it's okay, because I said, whether Trump wins or loses the election, he wins anyway. And I've been proven right. And I think almost anybody that knew that would prove him right. So it's along those lines, that discussion that you touched upon, because this affects you, voter integrity. You touched upon this being the most honest election that we'll probably have with respect to the recall. Why do you say that would be the case, say, if we don't address any of the mechanisms in place for the election are not resolved by next year?
Okay, so the recall, why I call it the most honorable and probably with the most integrity, is because your ballot comes in two forms. The top says, do you want Gavin Newsom recalled? Yes or no. Then if your answer is yes, who would you pick? So even Dominion can't change that, right? So a yes means there's something at the bottom here. Now, what that means is that we can go back and hand count them, because you can't erase the bottom. You can't erase the top. So you can actually go back and hand cut a sector to make sure the machine is actually counting the signatures and counting the ballots right. If the machine does it wrong, then you have the whole recount going. But see, the problem is you cannot go into a 2022 election the same way that we are right now. And that's why the recall is so important. Take a few seconds and think about this. Close your eyes and think about voter ID. Having to actually go to the voter poll and show your ID, show proof of where you live, and prove that you're a U.S. citizen to vote. That can be the future of California if you vote me into office. Because the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the Secretary of State, who Their main job is going to be to focus on voter integrity, cleaning out the voter rolls and the voter polls. My attorney general will be the second person I replace, and they're going to get replaced within minutes of each other, so that they will put the law in place where you need voter ID, no more mail-in ballots. Absentee voters will now have to send a copy of their passport, their driver's license, and a current utility bill to show that they are still alive for us to send them a ballot in the mail. We need to protect our vote, because our vote is the most sacred thing that you have as a U.S. citizen. Now, people want to say it's racist. If you think that that's racist, why are you giving ID to get on a plane? Isn't that racist? Why are you getting ID to go to the corner store and buy a lottery ticket? Is that racist? How about your beer that you bought yesterday? Is that racist? How about your cigarettes? How about walking into a bar and having to show your ID to get in? Is that racist? No, it's not. It's the law. And we need to go and take care of our voters and our integrity of our voting. And that needs to be a law where you need to show and prove that you are able and capable of voting in this country. Otherwise, you have no need to be there. We need to take the voting registration out of DMV, because everybody gets a California driver's license. And when you go there, they say, do you want to register to vote? Everybody who has a driver's license, register to vote. Whether you're legal in this country or whether you're not, nobody's double checking it. That's the Secretary of State, and that's why it's so important that everybody elects me as governor of California. I don't care if you don't like me in 2022, but I promise you I will fix the voting integrity before 2022.
That's huge, because that's one of the main things for why there is absolutely no way that I believe that Joe Collins III got that little bit of the vote. What's the other dude's name? Weber, who ran in Orange County for Orange County representative. Even he too is like, no. I just do not believe that that's how little bit of the vote he got compared to Maxine Waters in the case of Joe Collins III. I do believe there was an extent of fraud there, particularly because a lot of the ballots weren't even picked up from the drop boxes. But I don't even think that would have actually worked out in his favor if they had done so. Those were probably padded in with Maxine Waters voters anyway. But yeah, that's been huge. You're in San Diego, right?
No, I'm in Sonora, California. I'm up north.
Oh, you're from up north?
Yeah, I'm 2 hours from Sacramento. I'm in the Central Valley. So when we talk about water, trust me, I know about water. I know about all the problems that we're having. Now, when in respect to Joe Collins, I'll tell you this. I thought Joe Collins was a great guy until I actually started investigating him. I think he made a lot of mistakes, and I think that's what cost him the election. I think that when you looked at Joe Collins, you looked at a younger version of Maxine Waters, and I think that's why she won. I think everybody knew what Joe Collins was about, and they figured we would take another stab at Maxine Waters with a better Republican or conservative person. I'm a Republican. I do not like how the Republican Party's been acting. I do not like that we don't have a backbone. I do not like that we didn't back up Marjorie Taylor Greene when she got dismissed from her city. I do not like the way that they treated Donald Trump, and they did not have his back when a couple months before that they were begging him for an endorsement to get themselves hired. I believe that the Republican Party is a one-notion party, that it's the GOP. But I believe in my fellow Republicans, as the blue-collar workers that we are going to make the right decisions and the right choices that elect the right people into office.
Well, I stand in agreement there that definitely they need a spine. At the very least, they cannot stop looking like John Cena's and they just collapse under pressure to China, because how dare you say that Taiwan's a country? You know, it's just things like that. But the election integrity thing has been definitely one of great concern. I don't know if you're the one who touched on this. You might have been the one to touch on this because, again, GOP, we don't have a primary, but this is still basically advertisement for you should you not be elected to still run 2022, because that was your goal in the first place. So more people will know, but that means we'll have time for a primary. And of course, the biggest names that will probably be popping up there, because by default, they'll probably throw John Cox in there. And I think you're the one who said that he threw in the towel as soon as the polls closed, right? I think you said that on the podcast with Unleashed. Yeah. Okay. And
8:02. At 8:02, he said, "I'm done." There were still people lined up outside to vote. And some of the earlier voting has shown him in the lead. But at 8:02, he decided to call it. And there were still people outside voting. So this is what bothers me about John Cox, and I'll say straight at his face. You want to call yourself the beast? I guess it was November and the beast had to go hibernate because that was your time to bring out the beast. That was your time to stand up for yourself and say, no, let's wait till the morning and we'll have a recount. But instead, the beast had to go hibernate. And now you want to come out like you have some solution. You had your opportunity. You had it in your hands and you didn't care about us who voted for you. Why should I vote for you now? What has happened? Did you grow a backbone? Did you get divorced and your wife left her purse on the table on her way out? Because when you needed to have that set, when you needed to be a beast, you cowered down, you shriveled down to Gavin Newsom, and you went away.
And that's just it. I didn't remember seeing it that way just because I was following the national election a lot more. I stayed up really late, so I happened to see when they stopped the counting. So it wasn't like that. Where did those hundreds of thousands of votes for Trump go? Just out of the blue, literally blue, just like, wait, what happened here? And that's why it's been a concern because most people know nothing about the audit happening in Maricopa County, which is now gaining steam with other places like Wisconsin, Michigan, New Hampshire, one of them. Georgia is being delayed right now, but actual forensic audit to the tune of what's happening in Maricopa County. But the amount of resistance there has been right there is because it's exposing the corrupt system that we have, for which is why I don't know to what extent here in California, it made me start questioning, like, man, why do people keep voting in the same stupid people and policies they're complaining about or that continue to run our state to the ground? What if we weren't voting for them? And that's just a question, of course, without seeing the nitty gritty behind the scenes. We're not going to really know for sure, but that's where I stand. Even knowing all of that, you're giving them hell. You want to go out there and say it's a rigged system, but you'll still take your shot at it.
I'm not for sale. I'm just an average person. And here's the catch. If I could come up with the donations that I need, because right now I need the help from everybody to help donate and get my campaign where it needs to be, because I don't have the deep pockets of John Cox. I don't have the Kevin Faulconer money. But I also never took a knee with Black Lives Matter. I only bend my knee to God. I did not bend my knee to man. And Kevin Faulconer did it. Not only that, Kevin Faulconer couldn't stand up to Gavin Newsom and keep San Diego protected and keep San Diego alive and keep San Diego going. He shut him down. He obeyed exactly what Gavin Newsom said. Well, if he did that, how's he going to secure our borders in San Diego? How's he going to finish building the wall when the president doesn't want the walls? It's because he cannot stand up. He's not the right person for the job. But that being said, if I can raise the money that I need and I could get on television commercials, I can beat everybody who's running right now. It will be the biggest upset that California's ever had, other than Gavin Newsom, because he's a big upset for all of us. But it's just because he failed us.
Yeah. And like I said, it's that's we had a bleep with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I just hope that it's just not another rhino. And so for the passion that's been behind your voice and the things that I looked at, and you're speaking to la comunidad hispana también, you seem as down to earth as possible. But then again, politicians tend to do so. The thing is, you're not a politician, and that's one of the things that you said. So that's one thing you got going for you, for which is why I'm like, all right, cool. The other interview that I've lined up, we're just working on a date here, is with another relatively unknown. He's out of San Diego, and he's going to be at a debate June 14th. This is scheduled. Our interview together is scheduled to come out around the same day. And that's it's a debate. I think it's in San Diego, the San Diego Republican Party. I think they're holding a debate. Caitlyn Jenner is meant to be there. He has a spot on the dais to also appear there with the Republicans. His name is Joseph Luciano. I don't know if you heard of him.
Luciano.
Yeah, so he's the other one out there. He's getting beat for being a Mason. I honestly don't. I'm not judging anybody. I just want to know, like you said, I don't care about the party affiliation. I want someone that cares for the people that will vote for them. People get shocked when I say, yeah, conservative, Christian, registered Republican. I voted for the same Democrat in my area multiple times because he's someone that actually responded to me, stood up for our property rights here in Northern Orange County, and he fought for us. And like, dude, you were a great mayor, and you've done good for us. And even during the lockdown, you were fighting for us. That's not everything you hear about the Democrat Party anymore, especially when they bent the knee to the woke Inc. So, like I said, there are still those out there somewhere, and we need more of those voices speaking out. And I believe that people are clamoring for it.
When I become governor, I might hire Luciano. I'm going to need a Secretary of State. You never know. He might just get hired onto my cabinet. I heard some nice things about him. I don't really know him, but you always look at people who are running on the same values that you're running to put around you, to surround you, because you all have the same common goal, is to help California.
Yeah. And God knows it needs to be helped more than any time in its history, especially if we're going to stop this ship from sinking. Everybody's concerned about the San Andreas Fault and the big one. The big one is in Sacramento. And we need to definitely remove that. No, I don't want to take up any more of your time. We touched on the big one, and that's why we haven't. And there's some things we could definitely pick up on, and maybe we can. So, like I said, you have an open-ended invitation to come on again to touch on the one topic that hits the closest to home, that I believe is the most urgent topic that needs to be addressed in California, and that's with respect to the housing affordability crisis, because that basically goes in tandem with the homelessness issue. And as someone that I've seen on your website that you're strong on our veterans. I saw your IG where you were out there with a biker crew that went out to one of the cemeteries. You also talk about a strong proponent of funding our police and a protector of our Second Amendment. You're pushing a lot of right buttons, and I don't mean that in the sense of literally like right, but like in the correct way, for someone out there and you're not shying away from those positions, which only means to tell me that, you're brave. So I commend you on that, sir. And so far, I'm interested, and I wanted to speak to you before. I don't do the whole follow back stuff, but I'll follow you on Instagram. I'll be following with interest, and I'll keep my eye on you. And if you continue to make a believer out of me, then I'll also support your campaign in any way I can. But this is an initial conversation, and I'll definitely be watching your campaign with great interest. But I do thank you for making the time to spend time with me to talk about California issues and how we can fix California. And I wish you all the best on the campaign trail.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be on your show. Anytime you want to continue our conversation, you have my information. Please feel free to reach out. I will make time. I think that this is how the California people get to know me. La gente latina que está ahí, yo estoy acá para soportarlos a nosotros, para que tengan un mejor futuro. And, we all need to stick together for once, and we need to forget about our party lines. Just like you said, this is something that's greater than the Republicans or the Democrats. This is about California and saving us. And I'm not shying away from everything, because I believe in everything I say, and I believe I can fix what I'm saying. Because I once told somebody this: if you're a man and you don't have your word, you don't have nothing. My word I will keep, and I will do everything possible to make sure that everything that I promise will get done with the time that I am allowed it to do it. Okay. And again, thank you very much. Diego Martinez for governor.com is where everybody could get a hold of me.
Yeah. And again, for those of you that are watching, those links will be available to show notes accompany this episode at www.theundersegovernor.com. For those of you that are watching other platforms that are not YouTube, they should be embedded in the video description or the comment section. Just take a look and you'll find the stuff there. Mr. Martinez, thank you so much for your time once again.
And please, no more misters, Diego.
Okay, Diego. We're probably the same age, but still, it's my parents raised me that way. So
I understand.
But Diego, once again, thank you. Godspeed to you, sir. And we'll probably be talking again soon before the election.
Thank you. And you have a good night.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Andre Segovia Show. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the know. If you want a question featured on the program, or you never know, it could be an episode all on its own, you can message me at any of the social media links available at my website, www.theandresegovia.com. Also available there are all the directories where you can find my show. Remember to also follow me on YouTube and Instagram, where other exclusive content resides. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the program. I'll see you on the next one.